Tanya Moonwalker asked me, what things do I hate the most in all the years I've been doing Cosmoetica and my Dan Schneider video interviews and all other things online? Well, it's a large kind of question. Um, there are different things I've hated. I mean, I could say that I hate all the idiot morons that write in and have trolled the website or who put crap online, uh, ripping me or something. But those things are such a joke because the people are so ignorant. It's kind of silly. There have been people who have been in other positions of a little bit more respectability who've acted like real assholes. Probably the most well-known one is in my Dan Schneider interview series, the written series. I had an essayist, a science essayist named Edward Hoagland, who is a good, solid science essayist, nowhere in a class with Lauren Isley, who uh, didn't complete the questions as I wrote them. He answered maybe 10 for 15% of them, and he had this attitude. Now, he had some clear psychological issues. When I had spoke with him on the phone, he was stuttering for about 10 minutes. I mean, literally, he answered two questions. He was clearly resentful of me. He was clearly resentful of the fact that he hadn't had more success in his life. And apparently he had become friends or was friends with Philip Lopate, whom I had interviewed, and who also cut short an interview because he decided he needed to get paid. Both of these guys were totally delusional in their import in writing. And so Hoagland wrote probably the worst of the Dan Schneider interviews. And I think there's something majorly wrong with him. I spoke in another video about Michael Shermer. I tried to interview him twice, and two times he screwed me because I wouldn't just give him a pass on some of his wacky views. And he's a guy who's a noted debunker of things like the Loch Ness Monster or ghosts or paranormal phenomena and that kind of stuff. And he's a believer in the philosophy of libertarianism, not civil libertarianism, but libertarian party libertarianism, meaning he's a shill for corporations. And his book that he wrote, his memoir, was so rife with silly claims about history and economy and the like that I told him when I did the review I couldn't give it a thumbs up for that portion of the book. And all of a sudden he didn't want to be interviewed again. Just like he dropped out in '03 and '08, he dropped out of both of those interviews because I wouldn't basically kiss his ass. So he's basically a phony too. When I did the show on physics and the cosmology, there was a guy named Leonard Susskind who didn't want to appear. He was scared to appear with other people. Then there are the Noam Chomsky supporters and debunkers. The debunkers didn't want to do the show because they didn't want to go on record with their own voices, I guess, saying how little they thought of Noam Chomsky. Other things, there are a lot of academics who agree to be interviewed or whatnot, but then they change their mind. They'll say, oh, I don't have time to do the project. Now, this will be a 90-minute to 2-hour show 3 or 4 months in the future, but they're not going to have time to do that because we all know how busy college professors are. I mean, college professors who literally work 8 hours a week, have all the summers off, take sabbaticals every few years and get paid six-figure salaries for basically doing nothing. This is why college is so expensive, by the way. But they don't have time to do things. Then there are other people who've written books about subjects and maybe 10 or 15 years have gone by and they say they're not experts enough to speak about the person. Well, I mean, I can speak about anything that's in my wheelhouse. If I wrote a book on something and had researched it, you don't have to remember every single thing, but you can certainly speak about it. These are just people who probably are scared to, hear the voices or see themselves online. Then there are the professional writers who also have no time. Now, these are people who maybe are doing history books or whatnot. I just had a guy who, for this show on Led Zeppelin that I'm going to do, tell me he's not going to have time to do the show a few months hence because he's going to be busy. Now, here again, can't take 2 hours of his life to do something that will gain him more readers, I'm sure. And that's the thing that's so ridiculous. These people have no idea the power of the internet. Then there are the people who dismiss doing like the Dan Schneider video interviews as a project. They'll say, good luck with your project. because these are the kinds of people that take 7 to 10 years to write maybe an 80 or 100,000 word book that isn't creative fiction, something they have to dredge themselves out of, but is simply the regurgitation of data. And so this gives you an idea the way these people, operate. They work 8 hours a week. It takes them a decade to write mediocre books, and these are the people who are in colleges teaching other people. Then there are the people who don't know how to use basic technology. For example, I've had numerous people I wanted to interview who say they don't know how to use Skype. I'm doing this show actually today as I tape this, an interview this whole weekend, first with Vincent Price's daughter on Sunday, and today on Saturday as I'm taping this, I'm supposed to have 3 Vincent Price experts. One of them doesn't know how to use Skype. He can't download it, or so he says. And the other person says he doesn't have a webcam. Yet in every email I send out querying them, I say you need a webcam, a microphone, an internet connection, and Skype. And these people will then write back months later, when a few weeks before the interview, when I contact them again and say, oh, I thought this was going to be a telephone interview. This shows you how out of touch these stupid asses are. One guy who worked at Yale University says, do I need a techie to come over and install Skype? I mean, this guy can rely on a techie. This shows you how out of touch these rich, arrogant bastards are. Then there are the people who take bullshit offense at being asked something. Sometimes within an interview, for example, I did an interview show on the life and career of Michelangelo Antonioni, and one of the guys, Richard Pena, seemed to be quite angry the whole show at one of the other guests, a guy named Mike Gross, because Gross, unlike him, was not a teacher. He had no degree in film. He had a PhD in something else. And he spent the whole show sourly just sitting there. And then about an hour in, he dropped out. Now, again, these are people that I give estimates to. I'll say the show should go about 2 hours. Then come the day that they're doing it, oh, I'm only going to give you 45 minutes or an hour. Well, if you make a commitment, and I don't give a damn if you're getting paid or not, an adult person who makes a commitment sticks with that commitment. But these people, they don't value honor. They don't have honor when they do this stuff. And other people won't even do a show. I'll give you an example. When I was doing my Richard Dawkins show, Visionary or Fraud, I contacted a guy named Jerry Coyne, whose name was given to me by the guy who was against Dawkins. And Coyne didn't even want to do the show because he got offended by the term fraud. Well, there are lots of people who think Richard Dawkins is a fraud, or Noam Chomsky a fraud, or Ray Kurzweil, the first 3 that I wanted to do. I'm still looking to do the Chomsky show. He got offended and got asinine with me, and I had to put him in his place in the email exchange. But this is the utter arrogance of these people, that they can't even, you can't even go to them with a different point of view without them thinking that their world is going to fall apart. And then, like I said, they're just the usual people who need to lighten the workload and can't spare the 2 hours. So those are some of the things that over the months and years that have aggrieved me and I find ridiculous. I've spent most of the time in the interview, since those are more current. I could talk about a lot of the idiots from Cosmoetica's early days, but as I said, most of these are just anonymous assholes, and their complaints, as I've said in other videos, are of the very things that make writing great, or art great, my art or anyone else's. So anyway, thank you for the question.